Hello everybody, Jim here to talk to you about the upcoming Star Citizen Corvette, the Polaris. I'm once again busy in real life, so I'll be talking over a recent game of Vanduul Swarm instead of making bizarre pictures dance across the screen like I usually do. And, just in case you're one of those weirdos who actually bothers to watch the video while idiots like me talk about Star Citizen, I'm flying the Mustang Delta with no rockets, extra badgers, and no shields, and I don't do very well. Now, back to the Polaris. I'm pretty excited about this one. For those of you who've been following this channel for a while, you will be well aware of my unnatural love of the MISC Starfarer.
Oh, it's here! It's finally here!
Who's a good boy? It's you! Yes, I'm a good boy! I'm a good boy!
You're such a good Starfarer. Oh, I love you, Starfarer. Don't tell my wife. Don't tell her. She'll get jealous. But you're beautiful.
So, it might surprise you that the Polaris may well be the only ship that could convince me to part with my Gemini. What is the Polaris? In short, it's the new old Idris. Once upon a time, there was a ship called the Idris. It was intended to be one of the biggest player-ownable ships in Star Citizen. It would take 10 players to man the stations and 2 more to fly the single-seat fighters nestled within the snug little hangar. Then, something strange happened. The Idris got bigger, much bigger, going from 140 meters in length to nearly 240. So, the Idris had clearly left a gap in the fighting ship market. In steps the Polaris. But what do we really know about it? First, it will probably carry a jump-capable fighter, but maybe not. Since the Idris grew up, we no longer have a, air quote, small capital ship capable of fighting while carrying something as large as a Hornet. Only the Endeavor and Crucible are smaller than the current Idris and able to carry a jump-capable fighter, but the Endeavor is a dedicated science platform / Vanduul chew toy, and we haven't even gotten confirmation that the Crucible, a repair ship, can go through a jump point with a fighter in its hold. Clearly, there is a gap. We also know that CIG community manager and beard oil connoisseur Disco Lando was recently asked if he thought the Polaris could carry the Argo, a teeny tiny cargo ship, and he said, absolutely! Then immediately followed that up with something along the lines of, well, we can't be 100% sure until both ships are finished, so please don't quote me. Again. This answer, the dearth of ship-carrying ships, and one other significant factor suggest that the Polaris will have at least one full-fledged fighter on deck. Visually, we know very little about the Polaris, but a little information has leaked out. We know the approximate length of the Polaris. In an earlier episode of Reverse the Verse, developers claimed that the Polaris would be between 100 and 110 meters long, and more recently it was said to be, quote, well over 100 meters. So, we know it will be on par, size-wise, with something like the Carrack, or something a bit bigger than the current biggest ships in the game, like the Starfarer. But the only other visual description to slip from the developers is that visually the Polaris is, quote, not what you'd expect, it should surprise people, and we know it's been called slick and chunky, which puts me in mind of another popular fictional capital ship, the Mon Calamari cruiser. But that is probably way off base. We also know that the ship is developed by RSI, makers of the Aurora and Constellation, which both have a very utilitarian, bare-bones, generic spaceship feel that I happen to love. We also know from recent lore posts that the Polaris was built with civilians in mind, which, in context, meant that it would be cheaper to maintain. I think we can assume this means that the Polaris will have more standardized, non-military parts with wider availability within the PU once the game launches. If it were a car, you might say that you'd be able to pick up most parts from your local auto repair shop instead of special ordering them from another continent or some secret underground military base. The last, and arguably the most important thing we know about the Polaris is the price. Do you remember earlier when I said that there was one other important factor determining whether or not the Polaris carried a jump-capable fighter? Well, at $750, the thing better be able to carry another Polaris. Realistically, I'm pretty sure that the price is more a reflection of the intended rarity of the Polaris within the finished game than any real fake value the spaceship might have. But I can't help but think that the thing will crash and burn as a sale if it doesn't at least carry a single decent fighter. So that in a nutshell, is everything we know about one of the most anticipated ships in Star Citizen. To find out more, you should check out the CitizenCon Twitch stream this Sunday, where the Polaris will probably be unveiled. I'm sure that everything I've said here will be completely validated. Surely, nothing will come back to haunt me, right? Right? Nah. Anyway, thanks to everybody for watching, subscribing, and especially commenting. I really appreciate it, and I will see you soon-ish?